So excited to be able to connect with this incredibly inspiring and inspirational and motivational woman, Miss Melissa Ambrosini, at this incredibly pivotal moment in your life. It's the launch of your new book.
I've got one here. It's like, yay!
I've got like the advanced copy, so mine's like a little bit, marked up and stuff. But don't worry, they look like that, right? When you buy them, they look like that.
Totally. This is what they look like.
Love it. I mean, what was that first moment like, opening the package and seeing the first book?
It was so surreal. Like, I guess it really didn't feel quite real until I got my first copy sent in the mail. And it was so nice. My publisher sent it and she had a little note in there and it was really beautiful. It's so nice to see it in the flesh.
I can imagine. So it's called Mastering Your Mean Girl, the No BS Guide to Becoming Wildly Wealthy, Fabulously Healthy, and Bursting with Love. I love this. Please share with everyone the inspiration and how it all came about.
Well, basically, as I share in the book, my story is I used to be a TV presenter and I did some acting and modeling and dancing. I was a professional dancer and I was burning the candle at both ends. I had absolutely no idea how to look after myself. I thought cocktails and Starbucks mocha frappuccinos with extra caramel sauce and whipped cream on top were actually good for you because they had low-fat milk in them. So I had no idea how to look after myself. I wasn't sleeping. I was on sleeping tablets and I was dealing with depression and eating issues. And I ignored all of these warning signs for about 2 years to stop and slow down. Until I hit rock bottom, I ended up in hospital with a whole host of health issues. And although that was the darkest point in my entire life, there was this tiny, like pinhead tiny glimmer of hope within me. And I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was like so tiny. And I just trusted that. And from there, I decided to clean my health and my life up. And I went on to study holistic health coaching and life coaching. I immersed myself in meditation and yoga teacher training and acuenergetics, which is like energy healing work. And I read every spiritual text I could physically get my hands on from, Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, Louise Hay, all of these amazing people. And I just dove head first into this whole spiritual self-development world and haven't looked back since. And this was 6 years ago. And from there, I started a blog and started sharing what I was learning and growing and everything, and it just started to pull in all of these amazing women, and I started working one-on-one with women and then started creating online products and programs, and here I am 6 years later. But that doesn't mean it was an easy ride and it was all rainbows and butterflies from day one, because it absolutely wasn't. There has been a continuous journey of growth and evolution, and one that I'm still on today. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, actually, where the guy said, leaders are always learners. And that really resonated with me. And I was like, yep, I am always learning. I am always growing, and I'm going to be till the day I leave this earth.
I love that, and I love that you were quite really raw and open and honest with your message, because I think when we're going through those times, we're like, it's just me, I'm the only one that could be this sick, or I'm the only one that could mess up my life so bad, or whatever it is. So I really appreciated your authenticity with that. And I also love that you are very open and honest about not knowing it all. Like, you're going, I'm still on this journey, I'm still trying to figure it out, and you're sharing stories with your life that are, within the last 6 and 12 months that you're going, I've just learned this. And I think that's also really heartening that you're like, oh, okay, I don't have to know it all straight away. Melissa's still learning and growing. I can still learn and grow. I think that was really greatly received by me, for sure.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm going to continue for the rest of my life to be growing and remembering and evolving and that's this journey of life. It's about evolution, and you never get to a point where you're like, I'm enlightened. Yep, I've got this. And if anyone says that they are, like, run for the hills, sister,
run the other way. Yep.
because they are pulling your leg.
Totally.
It is a constant journey, and one that I'm so deeply committed to, for not only for myself, but for humanity, for the women that I am here to serve. That is why I'm so committed. I do this for the women that I want to serve. And as a result, it helps me at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I've got so many great things that I want to speak to you about today, Melissa. One that, you just said that you dove deep into like all, everything. It was the mantras and the chakras, and you got really heavy into it. It was one of the last chapters in the book, and you talk about being a spiritual gal in the material world. And I think this is so relevant for my audience in particular. We're fashionistas. We love being glam and putting on nice dresses. And you say that when you first dived into it, you went the opposite way. Like, you spoke about not shaving your armpits and not bathing. And I just think that is so hilarious, because I think that's the stigma that people are like, well, I like to wash, so I can't be spiritual. I like to wash my hair, so that life is not for me.
Yeah. I had to go, I'm quite extreme, and I had to go to the end of the spectrum and renounce, most things, like I really did, because I had so many attachments to them. I had attachments to my designer handbags and my designer shoes, and I had this idea that those things would make me happy, which is not the truth. Those things, and as I say in the book, being a spiritual girl in the material world, it's about, you can still enjoy those things, but they don't complete you and make you happy. They don't fill a void within you. I've seen it so many times. I've seen women come to me who have serious shopping addictions, and they don't even realize it. It's like, well, I'll just get this handbag and this and this. And they have this serious shopping addiction because it's filling a temporary void within them, but it's temporary. And then they will go and spend more and the next bag. But for me, those things are just nice things to experience, like a sunset, like the ocean, like Mother Nature. These are all beautiful things that have been put here on this earth for us to enjoy and experience. So I would say in that case that, if you love those things, and your tribe do, they love beautiful things, just make sure you are wearing it or you're buying it because you just simply would love to, not because it's going to fill a void within you. There's a difference. And like I talk about in the book, everything can be done from either fear or love. And you can buy and experience, those gorgeous shoes because you would just simply love to, not because, well, everyone else is having them and I feel like I'm missing out, and I saw them on that celebrity and she looked amazing. And, make sure it's coming from the right place.
Agreed. And also I think with that, what I got out of that as well was that just because you do like these things doesn't mean that you can't now go into spiritual practice. I look like this, I dress like this is me, and this is how I rock up to, healings and meditations and, what all these crazy group activities that I'm at every other week. But I look like this sitting in, a room full of people, and some of them have dreadlocks and some of them don't shave their underarms, and it's totally fine, So I think it's also, going, well, accepting that if this is you and this is who you are and you like to look like this, you don't have to fit that mold, which is what so many of us do in life. We're like, well, that's the mold of what a spiritual person must look like, so I should fit in there before I can even go down that path.
Absolutely. And how we dress and show up in the world is a reflection of us and our creativity. And if you want to wear a beautiful dress and I want to wear harem pants, that's totally fine. And by the way, I do shave my armpits now.
Right. Excellent. Yeah.
Just so you know. But I honestly, I went the total opposite. I wasn't like washing my hair. I was washing it with like avocado and honey, and like I wasn't, using anything toxic on my body. I was just wearing crop tops and harem pants, organic cotton. Like I just went completely to the one end of the spectrum, and I had to swing that way in order for me to come back and find this nice little juicy spot that I sit in now.
Beautiful. I love that. Now, I also really love the chapter on expectations, and you call it Great Expectations. You say, when you drop your expectations of both yourself and others, you open yourself up to infinite possibilities. You allow the energy to flow freely and more effortlessly, and spontaneity can move through you. But then you also talk about what happens when you build up your expectations. So maybe you want to share that with us.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, in this world that we live in, as soon as we attach a label to something like you're my friend or you're my partner or you're my mother or you're my child, it comes with an Excel spreadsheet of expectations. So you're my partner, so you should act this way. You should do this. You should make me feel like this. But what happens is expectations, like I say in the book, expectations ruin relationships. 3 powerful words that will continue to show up until you let go of your expectations. For me, I am only disappointed when I have an expectation on I have a gorgeous 9-year-old stepson. I am only disappointed when I have placed an expectation on him. Same with my husband, same with my mum, same with my friends. I only feel that disappointment when I have placed that expectation on them. So letting go of the expectations, like I said, creates space for spontaneity and magic and miracles to flow through. But when you have these expectations, you can't, the space is filled with those. So for me, letting go of expectations is one of the biggest things that you can do in mastering your mean girl. And they're all from your mean girl anyway.
Totally. And I love the example you gave in the book, and I felt the timing was just incredible. Love the universe, because it was my birthday recently and I was reading the chapter, and you mentioned in the chapter that a friend of yours, didn't call you or didn't do what they should have done on your birthday. And I had a very similar experience a couple of weeks ago whilst I was reading the book, and I had an expectation hangover, which I love this. So describe what this is, because I had one for sure.
Absolutely. Well, an expectation hangover, this is actually one of my good friend Christine Hassler's terms, and she has a book called Expectation Hangovers, which I mention in the book, and her book is beautiful. So if you want to read more about expectation hangovers, definitely dive into that. But like you get a hangover from alcohol, it's that heavy, murky, muggy feeling that we have. And you always get it when you have an expectation. And that story where I shared in the book, I had placed a big expectation on one of my friends to show up and message me on my birthday. And she didn't. I was so disappointed in her and angry and frustrated. And I held on to that for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
like I literally was like, I've done something wrong. And I filled up my space. Yeah, just so much of my space with that negativity. And then she called me and she was like, I am so sorry that I forgot. This is what's been happening with my family. And I was like, oh my God, like, seriously, Melissa, like, let go of your expectations. Totally. And it's so simple, but, when we plaster these labels on people, it comes with the Excel spreadsheet of expectations.
Yeah, I love that. I'm glad that you shared that with everyone. And the other thing that really resonated with me, which I, again, am totally, guilty of, is glorifying busyness. Oh, my gosh. And I guess being a freelancer, if we're not busy, then we're not paying the rent, So it is actually important that we've got work coming in. But like the conversation that you outline in the book, this is an actual conversation that I've had 1,000 times. And it goes, hey, how are you? Are you busy? Are you busy?
Yeah, I'm so busy.
Oh, good. I'm so busy too. Oh, good. And it's not even like, are you well or are you happy? It's like, are you busy? And I just think, oh my gosh, we need to stop this. This has been like a little bandwagon of mine that I've been on for a couple of years now, because I just think it's a ticking time bomb to, self-destruction.
Absolutely. We glorify the word busy and we wear it like this badge of honor. It's like, yeah, I pulled an all-nighter and I'm like, yeah, so good, like pat on the back. For me, I'm like, being that run off my feet where I'm to the point of exhaustion and so busy, like that is not how I want to move through my life. No, and not only that, like for me, it's like it causes adrenal stuff and fatigue, and that's not how I want to live my life. For me, when someone's like, yeah, I'm so busy, I'm like, I feel sorry for you. Like, how can I help you? Like, do you need to get more organized? Do you have to-do lists? Like, yes, I use the word full. You know, if someone says to me, how, you know, you must be so busy. And I was like, well, things are full, but it's amazing, you know? And it's just changing, because that word busy has a very, very, it comes with some energy, and it has a negative connotation, where full is like, yeah, it's full and it's my choice to make it full. So the word busy is eliminated from mine and my family's vocabulary. If anyone ever asks me, how am I, you will never hear the words, oh, I'm so busy, come out of my mouth. It's more, you know, I'm really well. I tune in with how I'm feeling, or maybe I'm not feeling really well in that moment. So, you know, imagine if you sat around a dinner table and you all started the conversation with, like, how are you really feeling right now?
Are you happy?
Like, yeah, how are you happy? What's going on for you? Like, what's going great? What's not going so great? Like, imagine that, opening up that. The dinner table conversation would be amazing.
Totally. Agreed. Yeah, I love that you talk about stop glorifying busyness. The other thing that really resonated with me was chapter 3. You've got a whole chapter on this, which is dialing up your worthyometer. I fully believe that worthiness and our underlying self-worth issues is the core of all lack and all issues in our life. So the reason you don't have that great relationship is because you don't feel like you're worthy. The reason you don't have the abundance is because you don't feel like you're worthy. So I think worthiness is literally the core, you know, influence of our entire life. And actually you say, living your dream life, bursting with love, has everything to do with worthiness. And I love this. You say, when you first got together with your hubby, you remember catching yourself saying, I'm so lucky, I feel so blessed. And he stopped me immediately and said, no, you're not, honey, you're so worthy. I mean, firstly, what a dream guy.
Goosebumps.
Goosebumps. Oh, so incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, talk us through this, because this is so important.
Absolutely. And it took me a couple of years to really understand that everything in my life was dependent on how I felt on the worthyometer, as I say. You know, if worthiness is a scale and 10 is bursting with worthiness and 0 is, I feel like a piece of crap, where do you sit on that scale? For me, you know, many years ago, I sat probably down the 2 or 3. And my life, my external world reflected that back to me. And it wasn't until I learned how to dial up my worthyometer, which is what I teach in the book and in my goddess groups and in everything that I do. It wasn't until I learned how to dial that back up that my life started to change. That everything, my work, my health, my relationships, everything started to change. And when you shift your worthiness up and when you start to have an abundant mentality, everything changes. Everything. So for me, it's one of the core things and why it's at the front of the book, because it's so important.
And do you find, like, for people that are, you know, trying to do this themselves, do you find that you should focus on one area? Like, give us a couple of tips about how we can start manifesting this today.
I guess the first thing is getting really clear on your mean girl. So for those people who don't know what your mean girl is, it's that fear-based voice inside your head. Some people refer to it as the ego or the inner critic or the smaller self or the inner voice or the voice, whatever. You can call it whatever you want. You can give it a name, Stacy, whatever. But for me, mean girl really, really resonates. I can actually visualize her and see her. And what we have to do is become aware of what she is actually saying to us. So maybe it is, you're not worthy of that relationship, or you're not worthy of, you know, that pay rise. You're not worthy of that job. You're not worthy of that friendship. You're not worthy of this. You're not worthy of that. That is one of the biggest tricks of our mean girl. So awareness is absolute key in mastering your mean girl and dialing up your worthyometer. The second step is gently closing the door on her. So like an annoying salesperson would come knocking on your door to sell you whatever, we've got to say thank you, but no thank you, and gently close the door. And the third thing is choosing love instead. So sliding back down into your heart, getting really in tune with your intuition. It's all there. We all have it. Everyone has that intuition, that gut feeling. But what happens is we've kind of buried it with so much mean girl chatter that we need to kind of get rid of all of those mean girl stories and things that she's saying to us, and really start to trust and follow our intuition, our heart a little bit more.
Right, and you give us a technique in the book, and what I love about the entire book actually is it's more like a guide. It's not really a book that you read and you think about. There's action, there's inspo action, and there's like sort of things that you have to implement throughout the book, which I absolutely love, because I know for myself, if I don't implement within 24 hours, it just goes straight out the door. So I love that you've got little, parts that you can actually journal and get it out of your head. Do you think that that's sort of step one, like, really getting clear about, what your mean girl's all about?
Absolutely. Awareness is so key, because once you are aware of what she is saying, you can then take action. But so many people, they are so confused and they think there's 15 different voices in their head. There's not. There's only one. Fear. That's it. There's only one voice inside our head. And when you can get really clear, writing it down, that's why I have the inspo actions, is because action is so powerful. Like insight without action, as Marie Forleo says, is pointless.
Right.
And we've got to take that inspired action to really implement the learnings and what we've read. That's why there's so many of them throughout the book. So awareness is number one in mastering your mean girl. It is key. Then gently closing the door on that thought, on that mean girl thought, and then choosing love instead, which is the third step.
And I love another really great action which you talk about, and that's your pity party dance off. And I think what's really important to note here, well, how about you explain what you do with your pity party dance off, and then let's have a chat about that.
Yeah, so the pity party dance off is a technique I created to move through emotions quickly and effortlessly. And as you love dancing, so do I. And we've got to go do a hip hop class together.
Sure.
We have to do one. So what it is every feeling and emotion that comes to us is just like a wave. It just washes over us and we have to feel it. What I used to do in the past was, fear or anxiety would bubble up within me and I'd be like, I don't want to feel it, I don't want to feel it, I don't want to feel it, I don't want to feel it. It's too scary. And my mean girl would be like, you're feeling like that because that happened, and attach all of these stories. And so I would suppress and suppress and suppress. And I watched my mom and all of the women in my life suppress all of their emotions my whole life. And so for me, it got too much and it exploded and I ended up in hospital. But I created this technique because feeling the emotions are very important. So what happens is, what we do is we go, okay, I'm feeling really angry right now. And I allow myself to feel it. Sometimes I'll go into the bedroom, and in the book I say, you can go into the bathroom, you can go into the pantry, go into the stock room at work, wherever you can. Because when that emotion comes up, you don't want to miss the opportunity, because it might not be there. It'll kind of sit to the side and you'll go along your day, but it'll come back up.
If not that week, then next month, and then next year, and it'll just keep coming back and back and back until you feel it, for sure.
Exactly. So it's important to catch it whenever it comes. So for me, if I'm like, yep, that triggered me, I'm feeling really angry, I'll go into the room and maybe I will scream, or I will scream into a pillow, or I'll punch the air and I'll just shake out my body or something. And I give myself maybe 5 to 10 minutes to really feel it. Sometimes I'll bawl my eyes out. Sometimes I will just scream. Sometimes I'll just get anything out. I'll express myself. And when you are in tune with your intuition, you will intuitively know what to do and what feels good for you. So say I'm bawling my eyes out, I give myself, 10, 15 minutes, depending however long I feel. And again, your intuition will tell you. Then once the alarm goes off on my phone, after I've given myself a certain amount of time, I put on a playlist. It's called Girl Power, and it's like got Beyonce and Katy Perry's Roar and Shine Bright Like a Diamond and like Rihanna, all these amazing songs. And I literally put that on and I dance my butt off and I sing along to the words, and it changes my entire biochemistry in my body. Dancing and singing completely change your cells. So that technique for me has worked wonders. It's worked so many wonders for my clients. But it's very important that we do feel the emotion, and then you give yourself a time limit and then you shake it off. It's amazing.
I love it so much. I can't even begin to tell you. I've never had the dance off at the end, but I've only in recent years, probably in the last 4 or 5 years, have I gone into actually feeling the emotion when it comes up. And before then, I had no emotion. Like I was completely emotionless. Like if something hit me, it would just get pushed to the side, and I was just like, there was no love, there was no hate, there was no anger, there was no guilt, there was no shame, there was nothing. Completely, void of emotions. And that was such a blocked place to be, And so now, after a lot of effort and a lot of training of being able to go, oh, that's an emotion, I need to go and deal with that, whatever that is, and just allowing myself the time and space to go, you know what, that's pissed me off, or that's made me feel really guilty, or I feel a lot of shame about that. So I need to go and experience that shame or experience that guilt. For me, it's crying. I am the biggest crier. I will cry at the drop of a hat, like I don't get angry as such, but I do the crying. So now I can just like go to, I pour a bath, so I'm loving baths, and I'll get in that bath and wail and wail and wail over whatever it is. And I get up and I wipe my face off. And, if you ask me about what was wrong the next day, I'd be like, oh, I don't know. It's completely gone. There is no emotional charge. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. But if I didn't allow myself that time to feel all of that grief, and often it's not even just the grief and the pain of that instance, it's the grief and the pain of that 100 other times of that exact same experience, that I'm finally going, it's okay to process this emotion now, Amber. Like, get in there and process it. Do the work.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's sometimes, I think people think it's so scary as well. And sometimes you may cry for 1 minute. You may cry for 100, 100 minutes. Like, for me, it does. And then I get to a point where I'm like, yep, I'm done crying. I'm done. Like the tank is empty. And I love what you said there. It's not just about that moment, like that thing that triggered you to feel that anger or sadness. It's your whole decade of your whole lifetime, and then your mothers and your mother's mother and your mother's mother's mothers. Like, it's all of this lineage stuff that has been passed down from generation to generation that we are healing and working through. So it's our job to really commit to that, so that we don't pass it on to our daughters and their daughters and, so on. So it's our commitment to ourselves to work through this stuff, because like we said before, it'll come up again.
For sure. And I think a lot of it is just permission. Like, I'm going to give myself permission to stop work and go and sit in the bath and cry for half an hour. Like, I'm allowing myself that time to process. And, that's just not something that it was ever okay to do. Like, you would never do that, Gosh, you had to be tough and you had to suck it up, and you're a strong girl, and, gosh, come on. So I think a lot of it is permission.
Absolutely. And I think that's very much our parents' generation. It's like, pull your socks up and keep going. My parents said that to me many a times, especially my dad. And bless him, like, he didn't know that's what his dad did to him and his dad's dad did to them. So it's, we are in a very different time now where things are really shifting up. And we're allowing ourselves to express ourselves. And with my little stepson, with him, when he's feeling something, I almost don't say, like, if he's having a little moment, like maybe he's crying or he's feeling really frustrated that he broke his Lego something or whatever, for him, like, that's his world crumbling. Like, that is his world crumbling. And, I see parents be like, oh, get over it. I'm like, I just hold space for him. I just sit with him and I just don't say anything, and I put my hand on his back or on his leg and I just let him cry. And I let him cry and I let him cry until he's finished crying. And then I'll say, something like, I'll give him a hug and give him some love, and I'll say something like, what can we do about this? Let's what can we do to fix this, or what can we do about this situation right here? And he'll be like, well, we can just start again. And I'm like, that's a great idea.
Great idea. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's just so simple. But, for me, I was never told to express my feelings ever. It was always pull your socks up.
For sure. And speaking of pulling your socks up, there is kind of a little bit of, moving on from there, you talk about being resilient. And I guess pulling your socks up kind of does have something a little bit about being resilient. And you actually say, resilience is the ability to go through adversity in such a way that you come out the other side strengthened and better off for the experience. Being resilient means facing life's difficulties head on with courage and patience, refusing to back down and play the victim. Resilience is staring your mean girl in the eyes and saying, I see you, but I'm not willing to let you win.
Far out. My words are giving me giving me goosebumps, but it's so true. And resilience isn't about putting on a front. It's about these difficult situations coming in front of us and going, okay, you know what? This is going to really stretch me. I know it's going to be hard, but I'm going to move through it the best I can anyway. That's what resilience means to me.
And I love that you also talk about putting yourself out there again and again. Like, I know people ask me all the time, what's the secret to your success? And I fully believe the reason that I've been so successful is that I've dusted myself off and put myself out there just one more time than everyone else. And that is the only reason, And I hear, like, I mentor a lot of people like you do, and like they go, oh, well, I tried to speak to one PR agent, and that one PR agent said no. And it's like, you spoke to one? I would speak to 100 before I would get a yes. And even then I'd get rejected 99 times and maybe I would get a yes, So I think there's, putting yourself out there and being resilient and accepting all those rejections and all those setbacks as just a part of life. Like, that's how it's going to be.
And how you pick yourself up is what matters the most. Like, if you were teaching your 6-year-old self how to ride a bike and they fell off the bike, you wouldn't be like, oh, get up, you stupid idiot. You would never say that. You would be like, all right, let's dust ourselves off. Let's get straight back on. You wouldn't be like, okay, well, let's quit now for the next 2 months.
Yeah, like throw the bike away.
Yeah, like, well, you can't ride a bike. No, you would be like, right, let's get back up on the bike and give it a go right away. And that's how we've got to approach everything, because there are going to be things that happen to you in your life. There's going to be people that pass away. There's going to be things that really stretch you, and it's how you move through them and how quickly you get back up that matters most. That doesn't mean get up and not acknowledge it. It means absolutely acknowledge how you're feeling, have the emotional release, but then move through it.
Yeah, I love that so much, and I definitely think that's a really great piece of advice for everyone, especially in the creative industry. Putting a creative project out there, like writing a book, or it could be anything big or small, it doesn't matter what it is, but it takes a lot of guts and courage, and you're probably going to get knockbacks, and you're probably going to need to dust yourself off 100 times before you get anywhere with it. Like, it's not something that's just like, oh, I decided to write a book and, now I have a book. It's not like a totally easy process, although I hear your process was kind of a little bit beautiful and easy though, Melissa.
Well, yeah, the actual writing process was really beautiful. I was sharing with a friend the other day that she said, did you write this book in nature? Did you write it in nature? And I said, why do you say that? And she said, I can feel it when I read the book. Like, she said, when I was reading your book, like, I could feel that you were in a magical place, like you were in the bush or on the beach or something. And I said, well, actually, I was in nature and it was just heaven. And I was at my husband's parents' property, and they have 30 acres, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And I sat out on their little like table and chairs just in the sun, mainly was nude majority of the time. Because I was like, I may as well kill 2 birds with one stone and get a tan whilst I write, yeah?
Look, there's nothing like tan lines to trigger your mean girl, right? Am I right?
And I was like, you know what? I'm so committed to no tan lines.
Love it.
But it was really beautiful. Like, for me, Mother Nature is just the most healing, powerful thing. And I felt like I was barefoot. My feet were on the grass. The sun was on my body. And I was just with me and my computer. I had no phone. I had no internet. I was just in nature and like looking out over, rolling hills. It was just magic and so inspiring. For me, I prefer to write that way. And not always can I be in that space. Sometimes I'm in my apartment in Sydney, and it's very different. It's just different. There's more distractions, so I've got to do a lot more mean girl mastering in those moments.
Well, speaking of mean girl mastering, I think everyone should race out and buy the book. It's available for sale now from your website, which is melissaambrosini.com. And it's more than just the book, right? There's an online program, there's meditations, there's a website. Tell us about everything else that goes along with it.
Yeah, so you can get, I've created the Mastering Your Mean Girl meditations, which are really powerful. There's 10 chapters in the book, and they complement everything in the book that you've just learned. So you could read chapter 1, and then you could do the first meditation, and then you could read chapter 2 and do the second one. And then once you've gone through the whole lot, you can mix it up and do whatever you feel. And then I've created the Mastering Your Mean Girl 10-week activation program. It's the next step. So you've got to read the book first before you do the program, because you won't understand really what I'm talking about. So read the book first and then do the program. It's the next step. It's about activation. It's about really implementing it into your life and living it in every moment. And yeah, this is one of the best presents you could buy your girlfriends, your sisters, your besties. Buy them something that is going to really dramatically transform their life and their health and their wealth and their love, and they will absolutely love it. Love you for it.
Oh, I agree. I think it's compulsory reading for every female, and I would love to see this in the school's curriculum. I imagine getting something like this when you're in high school or even in primary school. Like, oh my gosh, what a different experience teenage life would be like for us women. I think that would be a really beautiful thing. But Mastering Your Mean Girl, we only spoke about a few of the topics, but you go in depth about wealth, health, and love. So there's so many juicy topics in there that you cover off, and definitely something for everyone. So Melissa Ambrosini, thank you for letting me share this moment with you, and thank you for giving me a little pre-glimpse at the book that I hope everyone gets out there and reads, and congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me, beautiful girl, and I love what you're doing and the message that you're sharing and spreading, and I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed. And yeah, I can't wait to do a hip-hop dance class with you.
See you there.